Hi, fourth graders. We are going to start on our new module today. So you can see we're on Module 5, Lesson 1, and we are jumping into fractions. So our title is Decomposing Fractions with Tape Diagrams. Whenever you're ready with your table of contents, we're going to flip over to our notes, and you saw that it was 2 pages today. And so we are going to start on this first page that has our picture of our fractions. And we're going to begin looking at our objective. It says, I can decompose fractions as a sum of unit fractions using a tape diagram. I want you to look at unit fractions. We're going to come back to that later on. But first of all, I need to understand, well, what is a fraction? So a fraction is a number expressed as a quotient. Oh, when I see quotient, I think about division, in which a numerator is divided by a denominator. Now, you can see over here in our pictures, I have a picture of a fraction here. And when we talk about a numerator, it's this number 3. And the denominator is coming under this bar line, and it's the 5. But let's get a whole definition. So a numerator is the number of parts that we have shaded. So this is how many parts we're talking about. I ate 3 pieces of pizza, or there are 3 parts of the picture that are shaded. The denominator, that's the number down below, denominator is downstairs, is the total parts in a number. So remember, I said I ate 3 pieces of pizza, and there were 5 pieces all together. So this number is talking about the total, and this is the number that we have shaded, or that we're talking about. Okay? So when I look at this little strip, this rectangle here, when I want to know if I want to talk about this whole strip as a whole, then it represents one whole. Okay? Now I see this fancy word. My directions saying now decompose into 3 equal parts. Well, I see this D prefix. And when I think of D, I think about taking apart. So if we're going to decompose, I'm going to break up this one whole into 3 equal parts. Now we're going to do our best to make it into equal parts. And so I'm going to make 3 equal parts in this rectangle tape diagram. Okay. Now if I were to ask you about one of these sections, okay, I have 3 equal parts, and if I just want to look at this one, I could say, well, that's 1 piece out of my total of 3. So this little square is 1/3, is how I would say that. Now I want to look, and I'm going to use a number bond to help me understand how I can show the whole into each part. So my whole is going to be 1. Right? In my number bond, that whole goes up above. And if I want to make a whole 1, I have 1/3. I have another 1/3. All these pieces are equal, and I have another 1/3. So I can see it as a number bond. And now I want to look at it as a number sentence. And so I'm going to say 1 equals 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. And that gives me 1 whole as I look at this picture. Now, there's another way that I could write this. And so I'm going to grab, and I'm going to ask you to shade with me. And we're going to shade 2 of my thirds. So here's 1/3, and here's 2/3. So go ahead and shade yours with me. Now if I want to write a number sentence, and I want to look first at the part that's green, I would say that I have 2/3 that are green, plus whatever was left over was 1/3. can erase that. That was an extra plus sign. So 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 1 whole. Okay. Now remember, we boxed up here this box these words unit fractions, because that's going to be very important, fourth graders, as we continue on with fractions. A unit fraction is a fraction with a 1 in the numerator. So remember that numerator is on top. So in this example, my unit fraction is right here looking at 1/3. Every time, that's my unit fraction. Okay? So now we're going to take a look, and we're going to look at another problem and come over here. Now there's not a whole lot here, so we're going to add in some of those important numbers. And we're going to start and use the fraction of 5/6. So I'm going to start first with my number bond. Now you'll notice it's not a whole number, it's still just a fraction. But I want to know what my unit fraction is. That means I have a 1 in the numerator to equal 5/6. And if you guessed that it would be 1/6, you are correct. So here's 1/6 plus 1/6. Every time in this number bond, I am putting 1/6. And if I were to count them, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that equals my larger number of 5/6. Now if I come over here and there's a mistake, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Houston made some mistakes on her notes today. Thanks for being gracious and patient. I have 5/6 equals, I'm going to say 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6. And that equals my 5/6. Now I have to make a little correction again down here and say it's not 1, it's 5/6. Now, remember over here, I came and I shaded those two in. And so I want to know, is there a way I could write this number sentence a little bit differently? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add in some parentheses. Now remember, when we do that, I'm making groups. So I'm going to go whoop, here and here. And now I'm going to think about, okay, what's inside that group? Well, I have 1, 2, 3 sixths. And then left over here in this group, I have 2 sixths. And guess what, friends? That still equals 5/6. So there's another way that I can show you that. Now I'm going to create this as a tape diagram. And it says decompose. There's that D again. So I'm going to break apart this tape diagram into 5/6 into my units of 1/6. So now I need to make 6 total all together. I'm not making 5. Remember, my number at the total is the bottom, which I see is 6. So I'm going to go in half. And then I'm going to go this part into thirds. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. So I want to show that each little square is 1/6. Every square is the same. So every square is 1/6. And I remember that the fraction that I want to show was up here in my number bond, and it's 5/6. So I'm not going to color this whole tape diagram. I'm going to color 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that shows 5/6. All right, friends, turn to the next page. Turn to the next page. All right, my friends, we are on that page number 2. Now I have our reminder up here that our unit fraction is a fraction with 1 in the numerator. Now we're going to look at this half first, and there's a lot of pictures and not a lot of information, so we're going to fill that in. Now I see 2 tape diagrams. And when I look at my tape diagram, the first thing I want to do is make sure that I know that if I look at this whole tape diagram from start to finish, it's representing one hole. Well, this one represents one hole, and so is this one. So I'm going to make sure I mark that this whole tape diagram is one hole. Now I need to figure out, well, what is the fraction that it's even looking at? And so when I look at my one hole, I'm going to count how many pieces it has been decomposed into. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means that if I have 4 as my total, that's my bottom number. All of these are called fourths. And when I look at my unit fraction, 1 square is 1/4. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. Well, I look at this tape diagram and I notice the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and label it as being 1/4. Now, here's the fraction that I want you to show me. We are going to show the fraction 7/4. I already have my fourths taken care of. My one whole has been broken up into 4 pieces total. And now I want to shade. Remember, my numerator tells me how many I should shade. I want to shade 7 of them. So get ready to help me shade them. Well, I have 4 here, so I'm going to go ahead and color these 4. 5, 6, 7. So now I have shaded 7/4, and my tape diagrams are showing me that looks like 7/4. So I want to now show what that looks like as a number bond. So I'm going to put my largest, my total fraction, in the biggest circle. So I have 7/4. And as I look at this picture, the first group that I see is, well, there are 4/4 in this tape diagram. So I'm going to say I have 4/4 here. And then I remember that my other number in my number bond comes from what else I have, and there are 3/4 shaded. So here I have 3/4. So I look at my number bond, and now I want to write my number sentence, and I would say that 4/4 plus 3/4 equals 7/4. But fourth graders, I want you to think for a moment. I've labeled these that the whole is 1. So I'm thinking that there's another way I could write 7/4. So if I look at this top tape diagram, it is colored all the way so that it's showing me 1 whole. Then I'm going to look at, well, what's left over? And I see 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. And so now I can write that as a whole number, 1, and 3/4 here. So I would read this by saying 1 and 3/4. I didn't change any of my shading. The only thing I changed was going from a fraction to now including a whole number. And so now when I look at it, instead of saying 4/4, I can say, well, that's just 1. And then left over, I still had 3/4. So when I write this as a number sentence, it looks like 1 plus 3/4 equals 1 and 3/4. This number is the same as this number. It shows me the same tape diagram. Okay? All right, we're going to do two last problems. These problems are very similar to what you are going to find on your problem set and your exit ticket today. So when I am looking, I have already been given a tape diagram. Okay? And I see that the whole tape diagram is 1 whole. Well, I need to figure out what is that denominator going to be. And I'm going to start by going in my number bond, draw my fraction bar. And I know the denominator is downstairs. Remember, I have the numerator on top and the denominator down below. And the denominator tells me the total number, and I'm going to remind myself by saying this is the total number of pieces. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that one whole has been broken up into 6 total pieces. Now I need to look and see, okay, I remember that the numerator, the number on the top, is telling me how many are shaded. So now I'll count the ones just that are shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I can write 5 on the top. So I'm trying to figure out what equals 5/6. Well, now I notice these little brackets down here that are grouping together my unit fractions of 1/6. And in this first group, I see 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put 3/6 in one part of my number bond. And over in this second bracket, let me change colors for you to see. Here's that second bracket. I see there are 1, 2. And so I have 2/6. So I have my number bond, and now I need to write it as a number sentence, which would be 3/6 plus 2/6 equals, not one whole, because remember I have this extra one not shaded, but that equals 5/6. All right, last one. This time, I'm going to work backwards. I've been given my number sentence, and now I need to create my tape diagram. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, well, this whole tape diagram is one whole. And I need to look down here at my fraction that I'm trying to model, which is 5/8. I'm going to look first at the denominator. That's my number on the bottom, denominator down. And it says 8. I remember that this tells me the total number of pieces. So I need to break my one whole into 8 pieces. So I'm going to go half so that I get 4 on each side. This is how I can do it best to get them evenly. And I'm going to double check that I have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. So I've gotten that taken care of. Now, the number on the top, the numerator, tells me how many I should shade, and it says I should shade 5 of them. So let's shade 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now here comes the part where I need to look back at that number sentence, because I want to show, just like up here with these brackets, this is our goal. Okay, the first bracket that I need to make is going to show 2/8. So I'm going to start with a little bracket here and find 2/8 and label that this is 2/8. All right, step 1. Next, so I got this part taken care of, I need another 2/8. So I'm going to start my bracket in the same spot that one ended. 1, 2, end my bracket. That's another 2/8. Check. Now, I should just have 1/8 left, which I indeed do, and I need to mark it and label it that it is 1/8. Check. And I'm going to make sure that I have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 equals 5/8. So when you are asked to draw and label your tape diagram today, this is what I'm asking you, to show the brackets and label just perfect to match the number sentence you're given. Great job today. That first day of fractions, we're so proud of you. Go ahead and move on to your problem set and that exit ticket. Nice job.